All right, if you're getting ready for that AWS Cloud Practitioner exam, you are going to want to pay close attention. We're about to break down how to study smarter, not harder, by focusing on the 3 concepts that are pretty much guaranteed to show up on your test.
So are you feeling that pressure? Like you have to memorize hundreds of services and just this mountain of documentation? I totally get it. The amount of stuff to learn is huge and it's so easy to get lost. But what if I told you there's a better way?
Okay, so check this out. This is the official breakdown of what's on the exam. Now here's the crazy part. If you just add up the top 3, that's cloud tech, security, and cloud concepts, you get a whopping 88%. Yeah, that means almost 90% of your score comes from just these 3 areas.
So let's forget about trying to learn everything. We're going to laser focus on the single most important concept from each of those top 3 domains. You master these, and trust me, you'll be in an amazing spot to pass this thing.
First up, from that big security domain, we got to talk about the shared responsibility model. This is a non-negotiable, guaranteed topic on the exam, and oh boy, they love to ask some tricky questions about it.
So what is it really? Well, put simply, it's a framework that spells out who's in charge of what when it comes to security. And the core idea is this: AWS handles the security of the cloud, and you, the customer, you're responsible for your security in the cloud.
Let's make that even easier. Think of it like you're renting an apartment, okay? The landlord is responsible for the security of the actual building, the foundation, the main entrance, the roof. That's AWS. But you are responsible for everything inside your own apartment. That means locking your door, keeping your stuff safe. That's your data and your applications.
So let's break that down just a bit more. AWS is managing the physical stuff, the hardware, the global data centers, the core services. You, on the other hand, you manage your data, your apps, who gets to access them, and really crucial things like encryption and your network settings.
Now listen up, because this is the exam trap you have to watch out for. That line of responsibility, it moves depending on the service you use. So for an EC2 instance, where you have a lot of control, you are responsible for patching the operating system. But for a managed service like Amazon RDS, AWS actually handles the OS and database patching for you. The exam loves, and I mean loves, to test if you know that difference.
So just remember this. AWS secures the foundation, the infrastructure. You secure whatever you decide to put on top of it. Simple as that. Let's keep going.
Okay, next up is our second key concept, and this one is from that big technology and services domain, the AWS Global Infrastructure. This is totally fundamental to understanding how the cloud even works in the first place.
At its heart, the AWS Global Infrastructure is just the worldwide network of physical data centers that power everything. Now, the 2 most important pieces you absolutely have to know for the exam are regions and availability zones, or as you'll always see them, AZs.
You know, the easiest way to get this is with another analogy. So imagine a region is a big city, like New York or Sydney. Now, inside that city, you have multiple availability zones. Think of these AZs as completely separate power grids in that city. If one power grid fails, the rest of the city keeps running. That physical separation is the whole point.
So let's lock in that exam vocabulary. A region is a physical spot in the world, like Northern Virginia. Inside that region, you've got multiple availability zones, which are basically isolated groups of data centers. Now, putting your app across multiple AZs, that's how you get high availability. And don't forget edge locations. They're smaller sites that services like CloudFront use to get content to your users way faster.
And here is the absolute classic exam trap. They will ask you when to use multiple AZs versus when to use multiple regions. You need to remember this. You use multiple AZs in one region for high availability. That's to survive one data center failing. You use multiple regions for disaster recovery, to survive an entire geographic area going down, and also to get your content closer to a global audience. Let me say that one more time because it is so important for the exam. Multiple AZs equals high availability. Multiple regions equals disaster recovery. If you remember one thing from this whole section, make it that. Okay, our third and final must-know concept is the Well-Architected Framework. This is really the heart of the cloud concepts domain, and it's basically the official AWS playbook for how to build things the right way. So what is it? It's a guide full of best practices that AWS has learned from working with literally thousands of customers. Following this framework helps you build systems that are secure, that are reliable, that perform well, and that don't cost a fortune. I like to think of it this way.
The Well-Architected Framework is the official AWS checklist for getting an A+. Using it is like having an expert AWS solutions architect sitting right there next to you, giving you tips as you build. It's your blueprint for doing things right.
Now, the whole framework is built on 6 pillars, and you absolutely 100% have to know these for the exam. They are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and the newest one, sustainability. Expect questions where you just have to identify these by name.
And here is the trap. It's not just about memorizing the names. The exam will give you a situation, like a best practice, and ask you which pillar it belongs to. For instance, applying the principle of least privilege. That's a core idea of a security pillar. Or maybe using managed services to reduce your workload. That's all about operational excellence.
So the takeaway here is really simple. These 6 pillars are your guide to building everything the right way on AWS. Know the pillars and get a feel for what kind of best practices fall under each one.
All right, let's wrap this all up and give you a super simple checklist you can take with you for your final exam prep.
Here it is. Number 1, master the shared responsibility model, especially how it changes with different services. 2, nail down that global infrastructure stuff. Know that AZs are for high availability and regions are for disaster recovery. And 3, memorize the 6 pillars of the well-architected framework. If you pour your energy into these 3 areas, you are going to be in fantastic shape to pass.
You have the plan, you know exactly what to focus on, so forget all the other noise, master these concepts, and go get that certification. You've totally got this.